The Heliosphere, NASA's Voyagers beyond the solar system. NASA's twin Voyagers, both launched 4 decades ago this year, have traveled to the edges of and beyond our solar system, and through the Heliosphere. That's basically a giant solar space bubble, protecting our solar system from deadly cosmic rays. NASA's Voyager-2 launched 40 years ago on August 20th, 1977. It's currently in a region of space known as the Heliosheath. This forms part of the Heliosphere. That's a giant multi-tiered magnetic bubble originating from the sun in which our solar system resides. The Heliosheath is a turbulent region of space that has 700 km/h solar winds. The prefix Helios comes from the Greek Titan god of the sun. The Heliosheath is past the termination shock, an outer limit of our solar system where these winds are impacted by interstellar winds. Outside the Heliosheath is the Heliopause, an area that balances both winds, sending them back down to the tail of the Heliosphere. And beyond that is interstellar space, the space between stars. This is where Voyager-1 currently is. They've got enough power to last until 2020, after which NASA says they'll be destined to drift through the Milky Way for, probably, all of time. Strap into your spacesuits, Tomo Sapiens, as we bring you more stories from the cosmic beyond. SpaceX to fly 2 tourists around the moon next year. This week, SpaceX announced bold plans to next year fly 2 paying passengers around the moon, using technology that's still in development. In 2018, SpaceX hopes to fly 2 private citizens deeper into space than any human has journeyed previously. The 2 travelers will trek some 400,000 miles around and beyond the moon during the 7-day mission, before looping back to Earth. Before training for the mission, SpaceX says each of the unnamed passengers will undergo a series of tests for their health and fitness. The passengers are set to travel aboard a SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft, shot into orbit by a multi-stage Falcon Heavy rocket. The still-in-design rocket's first stage consists of 3 reusable rockets that produce 500,000 pounds of thrust. After separating, the central rocket propels the payload into orbit, where it continues on its voyage. SpaceX founder Elon Musk says the travelers will be trained for emergencies. However, the Crew Dragon spacecraft, which is also still being developed, will be mainly piloted autonomously. The crew can monitor real-time ship diagnostics, change the temperature, and take in views through one of the vessel's 4 windows. The spacecraft will conduct a flyby of the surface of the moon before traveling further out into space, where no human has gone before. It will then use the moon's gravity to slingshot back toward Earth. SpaceX hopes to launch the mission in late 2018, following a series of tests on the rocket and spacecraft. The identity of those traveling remains unknown, but one thing's for sure, they're very brave individuals indeed, and possibly also Scrooge McDuck rich. Saturn probe enters grand finale. NASA's Cassini spacecraft has begun the final stage of its mission after nearly 20 years traveling in space. The Cassini spacecraft entered its grand finale orbits between Saturn's cloud tops and the planet's rings on April 26, 2017. According to NASA, Cassini survived its first dive between Saturn and its innermost rings, sending back never-before-seen images of the planet's atmosphere, including this hurricane. During the dives, Cassini will measure ice and other content in Saturn's rings and take measurements from the planet's rocky core. Cassini will enter its final orbit on September 15th, in which it is expected to destroy itself by flying directly into Saturn's atmosphere. The Cassini spacecraft was launched in October 1997 from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. It traveled 2.2 billion miles to reach Saturn. NASA locates missing Indian spacecraft. Launched in October 2008 on a 2-year mission, India lost track of its first-ever lunar probe, the Chandrayaan-1, after 312 days. Its whereabouts remained unknown until last July, when NASA scientists located it. To search for the missing probe, NASA sent microwave beams from a 230-foot antenna at their Goldstone Observatory in California. These microwave beams were trained on the moon and the spacecraft's predicted orbit over the lunar North Pole. The Chandrayaan-1 passed through the beam and bounced back radio echoes that were received by the Green Bank Radio Telescope in West Virginia. The space agency reckons this same tracking method may have potential use in future robot and human missions to the moon. This is how Russia's robot spacecraft delivers supplies to the ISS. This Russian spacecraft may look like your run-of-the-mill satellite, but it actually plays a critical role in delivering supplies to the International Space Station. Russia's Progress spacecraft is loaded onto a Soyuz rocket and launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. After detaching the rocket, the spacecraft flies on an automated 2-day route toward the International Space Station. Progress then docks with the ISS, where food and scientific equipment are unloaded. After the robot resupply ship has fulfilled its mission, it will be deorbited and is then expected to sink somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. The spacecraft is set to remain docked with the ISS until December this year.